Chancellor, did you watch the nominations committee meetings this morning?
Yes, sir. I caught a part of them. Yes, sir.
After watching it, are you convinced that it's not just Senator Whitmire's opposition to your purchase in Houston or a U of H effort, that it's very broad and diverse among my colleagues?
Yes,
if
sir.
you watched it, or
yes,
if
sir.
Mr. McBee would give you an accurate perception of the meeting, you'd see that most of the members were opposed to it, and certainly all were very concerned.
Yes,
and
sir.
I drilled your candidates, nominees this morning on the governance of a decision such as that. Have you, I'm certain, heard the expression that every time I think I've seen everything, then I see this? You're familiar with that?
I am now, sir.
And another expression you've probably heard, that this doesn't pass the smell test. And in all sincerity, after being here in 44 years, 10 in the House, 34 in the Senate, I've seen a lot of things. I've seen people manipulate where prisons are located. They go by the cement plant before the prison, and then they persuade the board to put the prison there. I can go on and on with the abuse of power, the conflicts of interest, but I think this might, after 44 years, your direction to go purchase 300 acres in Houston. What are you going to do with it? I hate to be redundant, but today you really can't tell me. And
Sir,
you sure as heck couldn't
Yes,
tell me when it was announced. I mean, I've got all
Yes,
the articles and your comments.
Yes, sir.
Chancellor, we wouldn't let another state agency pull something like that off. Parks and Wildlife cannot go spend $300 million without legislative discussions. Certainly the prison system can't, TxDOT can't. I can go on and on. And what really disturbs me, even after listening to you today, is I don't think, in all due respect, I don't think you give a damn what the legislature thinks. And that concerns me. And I want to talk to you about this for a while from two concerns: the governance of how you're operating, and then the specific site. Because in all due respect, I think maybe you're getting bad information. And Chairman Foster, I'd even ask you, how long did you know about the project before you voted on it? I'm told by your colleagues, y'all knew about it one day from a presentation from the Chancellor, and then you voted.
The entire, I don't know how many.
Anyway, that's what the record reflects.
Okay, I knew about it for.
And the problem is, when you say you can't inform the legislature and have us, either the Harris County delegation or the state leadership, you said you didn't want the word to get out. The word was out. One of your colleagues, Mr. Cranberg, was talking to his development friends, and I can name some. Chancellor, it was not a secret among the business community and the folks that are blocking up the land. And what is so alarming, not just the amount of money, and I think you're financing it for a tune of about $450 million over the next 30 years, which you haven't really informed my colleagues, but just the process of obtaining it. It was not a secret among Walt Mischer Jr., and I can go right through the list. I worked with many of their fathers. I've been here so long. The comparables are so misleading. There's a reason why that's available. Are you familiar with the history of this piece of land? It's environmentally unsound. It's an oil and gas abandoned field. The only business in the area is the Wildcat Golf, and the mounds that make up the golf course is a landfill. That's trash under those mounds that look right down on your piece of property. And what did you do in your spin? Your comparable is the old Astroworld site over on 610. Are you familiar with that, Mr. Foster? The comparable is a commercial, successful site. I know, and my colleagues don't know, but I'm telling them and the public today, they've been trying to unload that piece of property on other governmental agencies and entities for years. There's a reason you're able to get 300 acres blocked up southwest of the Dome, because no one else wants it. If you'd have let the word get out, nobody was going to run to compete with you, except they knew they had a, obviously, buyer with deep pockets with a lot of political influence on the board. 3.5 miles from the medical center. That is so damn misleading. The med center's not headed that way. It's a dump. It's environmentally unsound. 2 years ago, they tried to create a management district. Before that, they tried to create an industrial district. This is nothing but you, in my judgment, bailing out some land speculators. The governance, as I've mentioned. You didn't announce it while the legislature was in session. I went to nominations for 3 new regions. Were asked questions about their plans for UT. We didn't have the opportunity to ask them about this. You waited till after the legislature adjourned. And we still, as Senator Bencourt points out, how do you think a senator from Houston, Harris County, how do we answer questions to our constituents, not to mention my colleagues from around the state? So there's 2 things. The governance of how I believe your style is it your way or the highway. The legislature is not involved in your decision. You just displayed it talking about the top 10. Back to the site. You don't need 300 acres to have a research park. You need probably a tall building in the medical center. The idea that you'd sit there and I'd have to go home and repeat what you said, that you think Houston's going to be New York City of the 21st century. I represent thousands of people that don't want it to be. And if you look at some of our challenges, such as traffic or flooding, some people are going to think that's a hell of a rationalization for spending $450 million that you don't know what you're going to do with it. So I'm going to save some time because I'm going to ask you, would you not have that on your agenda, the discussion of going forward with the Houston project, the utilization of that property, until the new regents have been confirmed and can participate in any dialogue or discussion? Because I don't think lame duck regents ought to be making that kind of decision. And I would urge you to, learn the legislative process, whether it's your $100 million systems building, other major decisions to involve the legislature, because we do count. We're held accountable in election, and I would hope you would help us be as informed and help you use some of our experience in some of your decision making. I'm told you've spent hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, to promote your Houston site. I know some of the consultants you've hired that in another earlier part of their career they were lobbyists, and I'm certain you wouldn't call them a lobbyist. I'll call them consultants. You've gone through Houston and tried to pick off people that can influence the elected officials. So I could spend a lot of time. I can't believe that you're still wanting to go forward in view of the physical restraints that we were down here to 9 o'clock last night, and we're going to be here to 9 o'clock tonight with your institutions telling us the hardships they have, that $239 million in special items are being cut from at this stage. And forget that I'm a Cougar graduate and I represent Houston. I'm representing your other institutions as I sit up here. I've heard from numerous constituents, business and civic leaders that are scared to death that you are taking valuable resources that need to be used, whether it be Austin, Galveston, MD Anderson, and starting another venture. Lord, no one knows where it's headed. And you just seem like you haven't heard a word that anybody's saying. So, would you postpone any further consideration, Mr. Foster and Chancellor, until you get the perspective of the new regents? And would you figure out a management style that involved the legislature? We're here for 140 days. We were here 2 years ago. You had to know what was going on in Houston. Certainly Mr. Cranberg did, and not a word was said. I think you could actually say I would suggest you could trust us to brief us in closed meetings, and because of the sensitivity of real estate prices, we wouldn't disclose the project. But it wasn't a secret. They were working like hell down in Houston, and they've actually started buying some of the land since you announced it. What about those land speculators? So let me just tell you, I'm terribly disappointed in the whole process, your governance, and specifically this site. I don't believe is in the best interest of the system or the state of Texas.
Sure. Thanks, Senator. I think I can guarantee you that we will wait until the new regents come on board. I give you that promise right now. And as always, I work for the Board of Regents. If at the end of the day we are not able to demonstrate, I am not able to demonstrate that moving forward with this project is of value to the University of Texas system and to the state of Texas, then I'll follow the direction of the Board of Regents. It's that simple. And as far as my respect and admiration for this body and for the elected officials around this country, so that is absolutely wrong. I spent 37 years in uniform, and I'm not going to tout the military, but I swore an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. I raised my right hand to do that, and I think I did that pretty well for 37 years. And I think I went before an awful lot of
that's
committees.
not the issue this morning.
Sir, you just said I do not respect this body.
That is my opinion,
Sir, I recognize that's your opinion, and I
it's
can tell you
based
that's
on your
not true.
actions.
If my actions
You just
were
said
mistaken,
you just heard the top 10 agreement of 2 years ago, and now you want to undo that.
Sir, I didn't say I want to
It
undo
was
it. What-
made in good
Sir?
faith of 4 years ago by this body. Number two, you had ample opportunity to explain the Houston project before you went forward, and to compare it with what they did in 1949 at the Pickle location. That's the year I was born. That's not apples and apples. It's spin.
Senator Whitmire, I know how passionate you are about this issue. I'd like to hear Chancellor
Ma'am,
McRaven's
I think I've answered the
commitment.
sentence.
That's what I
Yes,
heard
ma'am.
you say, the commitment.
Sir, absolutely.
And
Thank you.
thank you, Senator Whitmire. You realize, and it wasn't just Senator
Of course.
Whitmire, the other senators.
I understand the concern. I have understood
Everybody
the concern
Yes.
since the first time I briefed the Higher Education Committee. As I said before, this really was about trying to do what I thought was the right thing. But my responsibility as the CEO of the UT system is to have a bit of a vision. It isn't about the status quo. Too often great university systems maintain the status quo because they're forced to do so. And if you don't decide you're going to reach out and do something big and do something bold, then you no longer become a great University of Texas system. Well, we intend to stay a great system. And in order to do that, you have to assume some risks. You have to make some gambles. And this, Senator Whitmire, could very well be a risk and a gamble. I understand that. And again, I have apologized before to this body and other bodies about not being as deliberative. I concede that point, and I will do much better in the future. But if you think we can stand still and not move forward as an institution, I think that's the worst thing we could do. And this idea of real estate, as I mentioned, the University of Texas system has acquired 3,000 additional acres in the last 20 years. That was done through a real estate process. To the point, however, is all those had some vision of where that property would go.
But
And-
excuse me, Senator,
Okay, wait,
time
Senator
doesn't
Whitmire.
allow us to
Senator
go over
Whitmire.
to 3,000 acres.
Exactly.
I'm certain it's not apples and apples if we took time to review it.
Yes, sir.
And for you to stand up and say we bought 3,000 acres, that's just spin. You
Okay.
just bought
Senator
300 acres down there
All right,
that is damaged
Senator
goods.
Whitmire, we know how strongly you feel.
Yeah.
And
I'm just not
no,
gonna
I
sit here and
didn't.
let
I get it.
misinformation
Okay,
go out.
Okay, we're gonna stop right here. And I think you can certainly
Yes, ma'am. I got the message.
understand some of the concerns that we all share
Yes, ma'am.
that Senator Whitmire has expressed. I think you realized how things could have been done a little differently.
Yes, ma'am.
And we're gonna move forward.